Hey. Time for an out-of-this-world story from rSpace. Some people marry their soulmate. Some marry their best friend. And then there are the ones who take one look at a man with a rap sheet longer than a CVS receipt and proudly declare, "He's just misunderstood. I can fix him." Today on rSpace, she could not, in fact, fix him. Wife's Felon affair partner got aggressive and started sending me threats. I got a restraining order and left her to deal with him alone. My life is playing out like a movie right now, and it is typically very boring. So this is definitely far from the norm in my life. I thought that I had achieved a pretty average life, though I have liked it the way it had been. I am 36 male and my wife is also 36 female. For the sake of this, I'll just say that her name is Max. We've been married for 9 years and we have 2 children. I thought that things were okay, but that's the case with a lot of guys who end up being surprised by wives who were secretly having affairs. The thing is that I was blissfully unaware, and I'm not sure if I would have preferred for things to say that way, and I only found out that things were not okay because her affair partner decided to reach out to me. As is my right, I went out with my wife one Saturday afternoon. The weather was perfect, so I said that we should go out and have a romantic day to ourselves. I dropped the kids off with their grandparents, and then we went into town. For most of the day, she was fine, but I noticed about 3 hours in, her mood changed all of a sudden. I asked her what was up, but she refused to say anything, no matter how much I pressed. My assumption was that she had received some kind of bad news and she didn't want to share it, because I felt like she had been using her phone at the time when everything just changed in the blink of an eye. She never told me what was going on, but I eventually found out only because someone reached out to me on Instagram. I didn't recognize the person, and we had 2 mutual followers, but they weren't people who I was super close with. The first message was just a hello, and when I answered, the tone changed entirely. The person told me that they'd find me and F me up if I didn't back off from Max. I was incredibly confused, because obviously, as Max's husband, if anyone was saying that kind of stuff, it was meant to be me saying that. Nobody had the right to say that to me. I asked the person who they were, and the guy said that his name was Donovan. He said that I'd regret it if I didn't listen. I wanted to know how he had found me or how he knew I had anything to do with Max, and he said that he had seen us in town that day. It made sense why her mood changed. She had probably seen the person, or the person had sent her a message to say that they had seen the 2 of us together. I didn't need to be a genius to do the math. If he was just a stalker who she had no interest in, she certainly would have told me because it was the kind of stuff that I should know about. That wasn't the case though. It was clear he was someone she had romantically been involved with, and that person didn't know that she had a husband. As far as he was concerned, he saw his girl with a strange guy and decided to mark his territory by being threatening and aggressive. I told him that I wasn't going to back off from her, and that it'd be a good idea if he did his worst. He said that he had effed up people before, and I would ultimately regret it if I pushed him to that point. Max was his girl, and if I did more than I was meant to do, he wouldn't hesitate to teach me a lesson. Then he sent me a picture of a gun. I will admit that was a little scary, but at the end of the day, I know how to shoot too. So if it comes to that, then it comes to that. This is my wife we're talking about, and even though I knew in that moment that she wasn't going to be my wife for much longer, I wasn't going to let an aggressive man like that win in the game of intimidation. He was yapping a lot, so there was a lot of evidence for me to document. I knew that I was going to need it in case he was somehow smart enough to figure out that I lived with her or where I worked. At a point, when I felt like there was no benefit in me talking anymore, I just stopped, though he kept sending messages for some time until he probably tired out. I haven't confronted Max yet, but I'm certainly going to do that at a point. However, for now, I want to make sure that I get all my facts right. I doubt he'll admit to her that he acted like a gorilla to try and scare me away, so she shouldn't have any idea that I know what's going on. In the end, he could just be some crazy guy who knows my wife, but I think we all know that that's not the case. This is someone who feels like they have the right to fight for her to such an extent. All I need is time, because I'm eventually going to figure out the truth. Update 1. A lot has happened since the last time I posted, but in that time, I found out a whole lot, and at this point, I pretty much know exactly what has been going on. Because I had the social media account of the guy who was threatening me, the first thing I did was to share that with a PI. That was the easy way for me to do things, instead of trying to figure out things on my own and potentially failing to find anything worthwhile. The PI was the right choice by quite a margin, because not only was he able to find out the guy's name truly was Donovan, but he was able to get me his last name too. On top of that, he found out he was a 40-year-old man who has never been married and had a criminal record. Here's the thing. Everyone goes through crap in their lives, so the fact that he had a criminal record wasn't the problem. It was the charges themselves. This guy had been put away for 8 years on an armed robbery charge. Yet that still wasn't the worst part of the whole thing. It was the fact that he had a charge for soliciting a minor. You can explain away the fact that you were in a bad place, got mixed up with the wrong people, and that's why you ended up robbing a place with a weapon. However, there's no excuse whatsoever for soliciting a minor. The fact that I have 2 daughters only makes everything worse. I hope that she's never had them around a man, but that's not something I'll be able to confirm in any way. I would like to think that she's too smart to do that. I knew the kind of man that he was at that point, and I realized that if he was threatening me, he was stupid enough to actually do something if he came across me. I just needed to know the extent of his relationship with my wife. My first instinct, of course, was to ask her, but I knew that there was no way I'd be able to trust her enough to tell me the truth. I was going to have to snoop through her phone. I've done it before, and I don't have reservations about it. I just hate the anxiety that comes with trying to be sneaky and all of that. When I got my hands on her phone, I went straight into her messages on Instagram, and I was able to find the same account that had been messaging me. From there, it was super simple for me to establish that the guy wasn't a stalker. That had been the benefit of the doubt I had wanted to give her. But seeing the way they were talking to one another made it clear that not only did she seem to know him well, but she also liked him. Going through their messages, it became clear that the two of them had feelings for each other. She sent him a reel of a beautiful location in China with the caption, "We should go here," which he agreed with. It was crazy to me how they were already planning romantic trips with one another, especially when she was a married woman. I read through everything, since they had only been talking for 4 months. There was no mention of me, and there was no mention of the fact that she had children. I wondered exactly how she thought she'd be able to run away for a vacation in China without me having any idea of it. When I kept reading, I eventually found enough in the messages to confirm that the two of them had been intimate. To be honest, that was all I had come for, and I wish I had been all that I had seen, because me seeing the emotional parts of her, like pet names and plans for the future, were much worse to me than the fact that they had actually slept together. Obviously that was bad, but it hurt that she wasn't just using the guy for what he brought to her physically. She was actually falling in love, if she hadn't fallen in love already. That was what was really upsetting me. As it is now, I know that the person I got married to and have 2 kids with is having an affair with an ex-con with a violent crime and a sexual crime against a minor. And not only is she just having fun, but she's also planning future trips with the guy. She's fallen for him, and it is tearing me apart. You didn't miss signs or ignore things. You trusted your wife. That's what you're supposed to do in a marriage. Trust isn't a flaw. And then on top of that, you've got this man, this complete stranger, threatening you, posturing, sending pictures of guns, acting like he's the victim here. It's ridiculous. The armed robbery charge is already enough to keep someone at a distance, but the charge involving a minor? Absolutely not okay. What the heck is she thinking? Oh, sorry, that's right. She's not thinking at all. Update 2. I've gotten past the hard part of finding out that your wife is cheating on you, and that's the part where you confront them with what you found out. That part was definitely hard for me. Before I get into that, though, I'll talk about my situation with her other man, Donovan. I decided to poke the bear a little bit to try and get a reaction from him. So I sent a picture of me and Max, and that, just like I expected, it set him off. He told me to meet him at a location that he provided. He said I was only tough behind my phone, and I told him that he was right. I let him know that he'd be much better off trying to find me because I didn't want anything to do with him. I flipped it around and told him that he should stay away from Max instead because I wasn't going to. Again, he felt that it was going to be cool or scary for him to send a picture of him holding a gun. I didn't respond after that. After 15 minutes without a response, he told me that he was going to show me why I was his bitch, and I wouldn't see it coming. Again, I didn't respond, but I took screenshots of everything. My plan is to get a restraining order against him. If he's on parole, it's possible that he's not even meant to have a gun, so if I can get him thrown in jail, then that'll be fantastic. Back to the situation with Max. I got a recommendation for a divorce lawyer from my friend. I reached out to him the very next day, armed with all of the stuff that I had documented from her Instagram, the messages that her affair partner had sent me, and what the PI had found regarding the guy. With all of that, the lawyer assured me that I had a very good chance of custody going my way. He said that while I might not get 100% custody, I would certainly come out on top if Max's idea of a good partner was a man who tried to sleep with a minor. The lawyer was preparing the papers, and while I was originally meant to wait for them to be ready, I couldn't wait. I decided that I was going to confront her about Donovan, and I did that at the first chance that I got. I didn't plan it out or rehearse anything, So the very first thing that I asked her was, "Who's Donovan?" And she froze when she heard that. She looked like she never expected me to say that. I asked again because I didn't want to give her the time to think. She was mumbling. At first she mumbled that she didn't know who I was talking about, and then she mumbled that he was just someone she knew. Then she decided to tell the half-truth by saying that he was a guy who really liked her, but she had been trying to tell him off for ages. I asked her if that was the truth, and she nodded, but she didn't commit to it. I asked her if she wanted to know how I knew him, and she said yes. So I explained that he had come into my DMs to threaten me because he had seen me out and about with her. I reminded her that it was the same day when her mood changed so suddenly, and I knew she remembered that day too. I asked her why Donovan didn't know that she had a husband, especially since that would have been such an easy way to push away a guy who was obsessed with her. She claimed that he knew, but he was just crazy. She said that was why she was so scared when I mentioned his name, because she was already dealing with him being aggressive towards her alone, but him being the way he was towards me was something that she had not wanted to expose me to. I told her that she was so kind for thinking of me in that fashion, and that I really appreciated her kindness. I think she might have thought that she actually got away with it, because I could almost see as she seemed to calm down. I didn't let that last long because I let her know that I knew she was lying. I said that I had seen their DMs with one another, without mentioning that I had seen them from my side. I quoted a few of the more risque things which were said because I knew she'd recognize them, and that was all the proof I needed for her to know that I had truly seen those things. I asked her whether she wanted to stick with her story or if she wanted to finally stop lying to me. She started crying and she said that she wanted to stop lying, so I waited to hear how she planned to excuse herself from what she had done. She said that something had happened between her and Donovan, but it had been a big mistake. They had gotten to know each other, but she didn't push things beyond friendship because she had me, and I was enough for her. She said he got her on a day that was really bad, and she had made the mistake of sleeping with him. She told him right away that it was never going to happen again, and it was a massive mistake. However, he got obsessed with her, and he was so persistent that she struggled to continue to say no to him. That was the only reason why she was still in contact with him. I didn't believe her for a single second, and I told her as much. I told her that she had messed up big time, especially because he was a felon. Apparently she knew that because she didn't look too surprised. What was surprising was the fact that she defended him. She told me that he was a felon, but it didn't mean that he was a bad person. She admitted that he had an armed robbery charge, but that was it. I asked her whether she really thought that was it with him, and she said yes. I really wanted to see her face when I told him about his other charge, but ultimately, I decided that it wasn't worth it. I'll keep that one in my pocket. She got served with papers in the morning on the next day, and it instantly destroyed her mood. It was so clear to me, but I didn't really care about her anymore. Now, all that's left is the divorce, and I'm going to do my best to make sure she gets as little as possible. I have a lot of emotions that I bottled up, but I'm going to keep it that way because I don't need those emotions to impede anything for me. Not right now, at least. Update 3. The divorce went pretty chill for me. I'm sure she might not have the same opinion. I just loved it because a lot of it came down to the way that I was better prepared and had more things to destroy her with. The most important thing for the court was the fact that the person she had cheated on me with was a dangerous individual, particularly around children. I didn't try to appeal to the court over the actual infidelity because I knew that wasn't going to go anywhere. Instead, I focused on the custody by showing that my wife would have the potential to bring a very concerning individual around my children, and I didn't want that at all. She was shocked when she heard about the fact that he had a crime with a minor because he had obviously kept that unflattering fact away from her. It was amusing to see the way she reacted. That was my trump card, and thankfully, it paid off for me. I got 70% custody while she got 30%. It was good enough for me because, to be honest, I don't actually want my children to be completely alienated from their mother, but the closest I can get, I don't mind. I got the house, which made sense since I had the kids for the most of the time. She's going to be getting a split of the joint funds and alimony and child support, and that's fine by me, to be honest. Regarding her man, I went straight to the police to file a report about his threats and harassment. Long story short, I was able to get a restraining order against the guy, but even better was the fact that, as I predicted, he was on parole, and he was not allowed to be in possession of a firearm. The pictures he had sent to me had led to a search of his residence, and they found 2 firearms, obviously not registered, in his possession. He's obviously going to be taking another visit to prison, but that's none of my business. He's Max's problem at this point. I have my kids and I have the house, and that's enough for me. It's up to her whether she still wants to do life with him, but if she had common sense, she'll keep herself and my children away from him. He's not good news, and I promise that things will not end happily if she makes the foolish choice to keep him in her life. That's what I think, at least. For me, I'm going to have to figure out how to rebuild my life after everything has fallen apart the way it has. I didn't think I'd ever have to be in the dating scene again, but my life is very unpredictable. I'm just glad to be free, I guess. You poked the bear, and the bear immediately proved he was exactly what you already knew he was: unstable, dangerous, and not remotely as smart as he thinks he is. And the fact that he was on parole with illegal firearms, he basically speed ran himself back to prison. You protected yourself, protected your kids, documented everything, and moved on. Good. But then she defended him, even after knowing he threatened her husband, even after knowing he was a felon. She really had no idea who she was dealing with, and honestly, that's terrifying. There's denial, and then there's delusion. She really thought she picked a man who was misunderstood or had a rough past, and instead she found out he was actively lying about one of the worst things a person can hide. That's not on you, that's on her choices. Now Donovan is going back to prison, your kids are safe, and you're finally free from living next to a bomb that could have gone off at any time. Is "I can fix him" officially the most dangerous sentence in the English language? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. See you next time.